You guys following me so far? Okay, so let's look at this argument for a minute from a Christian standpoint. If good and evil exist, there are objective moral laws by which we can tell the difference. If you can't tell the difference between something that's evil or good, then you're a psychopath, because you may not be able to tell every time, but you can tell. You know evil when you see it, right? Now, that means in order for that to be true, there has to be good. Evil can't stand by itself because there has to be something opposite of evil so that you can tell what evil is. You following me? Okay. Objective moral laws exist because all people have what's called intrinsic value. People, not animals, have intrinsic value. That word means essential, necessary, inborn. In other words, if anybody ever looked at a human being as having no value, you would object. It would make no sense. There used to be posters, I remember, they used to show a little girl in a city where she's starving to death, and it said, "God made me, he didn't make junk." And we all get what she's saying, right? But how many people, when the SPCA commercials come on and there's music in the background and there's a dog and it's freezing outside and the dog's chained, how many people stop everything they're doing and just pour money into that to stop the suffering of the animals? Nobody. Why? What's the difference between the dog in the commercial and a human being? If your dog, they actually did a test at some colleges, and it's pretty sad. They said, they asked people, all these college students, if they had a family dog. A lot of them do. They said, "Do you consider it part of the family?" What do you think they said? Oh, yeah. I said, "So if you're at a lake and your dog is drowning and 20 yards over, a young person, a child is drowning, who do you save first?" Who would you save first? What would you say? Huh? Why? It's your family pet. Why the child? We know the difference. We know the difference. Now, I use this in a debate, and I've used it on stage before because I really love this example. I said, okay, I'm watching TV, watching the Chiefs. I've got my 2-year-old sitting next to me, we're on the carpet sitting down, I'm watching. Our dog comes in the room, walks over, mauls my baby in the face. Just attacks the baby, tears up my baby's face. What do I do to the dog? Excuse me? I kill the dog? Okay. I'm watching the Chiefs. My dog's sitting next to me. My 2-year-old comes crawling in, goes up to the dog, mauls the dog in the face, just starts biting the dog like crazy, tearing up the dog. What do I do with my 2-year-old? I don't kill him? Why not? What's the difference? The dog, much as we hate to admit it, is property. That's what the dog is. The child is my blood. It's family. God, when it explains people in the Bible, there's children. They're part of his family. Everyone, in God's eyes, has intrinsic value because they're people. And our actual Declaration of Independence says that. Inalienable rights. Our founders based our entire legal system on the intrinsic value of people because God says so. This is insane. It's like we've forgotten this. So, how do we know premise 2 makes sense if it's true? Do you think people ought, regardless of where they live, what time it is in history, what culture they live in, be intrinsically valuable? Ought people always be intrinsically valuable? I notice I use the word ought and not should. You ought to go 55, not should, right? Ought is ethics. It has to do with the standard. So here, all of us agree. Well, the problem is we have examples in history where people did not treat others as intrinsically valuable. When Jesse Owens was in the Olympics in Nazi Germany, why was Hitler so upset? Because a black guy beat his best Aryan runners. And he looked at anything that wasn't Aryan as substandard and not human. That's how he viewed it. How did he view Jews? Property, test subjects, useless. And yet everybody knows that's not true. So if we all agree that intrinsic value is applying to humans, and yet we have examples in history where it wasn't, then this oughtness doesn't come from people. No. It can't. So in order for there to be objective laws, there has to be someone giving them to us, and that giver has to be above people, since oughtness doesn't originate with people. You follow me? You guys follow me? This moral lawgiver must, by its very essence, have the highest moral values, the standard of goodness. There's only one candidate. It's the God of the Bible. That's it. It's very logical, and yet we have a culture that's not thinking that way. Look what he says. I love the Old Testament. He can't even look on wickedness. Can't even look at it.